Well, it wasn't a quiet trade deadline for the Buffalo Bills, who made two trades in addition to a wave of roster moves. I'm breaking it all down in this special edition of Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino from the Draft Network, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Thanks for joining me, and thank you for always making Locked On Bills your first listen every day. I know that this is not our first podcast of the day, but Brandon Beane was busy on Tuesday afternoon, and we got to talk about the two trades that he made in addition to several other roster moves. Now, one thing that I want to say right off the bat here is this will not be the Wednesday podcast. I'm still going to give you the Jets primer. That's still coming. This is a one-off special edition because we got to talk about all these new Buffalo Bills players and everything that went down at the trade deadline regarding the Buffalo Bills. But I think the lead item that we need to discuss is the trade for running back Nyheim Hines, the former Indianapolis Colt, now Buffalo Bill. He's 25 years old. He turns 26 in just a couple of days here. November 12th is his birthday, so he'll be 26 very soon. Was a fourth-round pick by the Colts, number 104 overall in 2018 out of North Carolina State. 5'9", 196 pounds. He's got a lot of speed. Ran a 4.38 40-yard dash at the NFL Scouting Combine. Now, everybody that knows Nyheim Hines and has been around Nyheim Hines raves about him as a person. And I learned about that back when he was at NC State. That was during a time where I was around the program quite a bit, and people just couldn't stop saying great things about Nyheim Hines. And I actually had a conversation with their head coach, Dave Doran, one time, and he told me that Nyheim Hines is an elite competitor. And so I talked to Nyheim after that and actually did an interview with him. And when I told him that Coach Doran said he's an elite competitor, this is what he said back. And this is a quote from Hines. He said, "Being undersized and vertically challenged, I don't weigh that much. I'm fast, but really, I don't want people to know me as a fast guy. I really run with heart. I let the speed take over, but obviously, you can't have big runs all the time. So I want everyone to know that I play with heart. I try to play as fast and physical as I can." And so before we get into all the dynamics of what he brings to the table, the contract, what it means for the Bills running back room, all that stuff, I love the person that the Bills brought into their football team. And we know that that's very important for this culture. And I think Nyheim Hines is going to fit right in. I'm sure that you saw the Pat McAfee reaction and comments on Nyheim Hines. But those are the types of sentiments that come from everybody that knows him. And so I'm excited about the person that the Buffalo Bills got for the team. So what did the Bills give up? Well, they acquired Hines in exchange for Zach Moss and a conditional 2023 sixth-round draft pick. And so I'm pretty satisfied with that package. It's a pretty modest package to give up. Obviously, it wasn't really working out with Zach Moss. He didn't get any opportunities against the Packers. He was inactive against the Chiefs. It wasn't going anywhere. And I hope it happens for him with the Colts. The Bills need a running back just like Zach Moss, one that can help them on short yardage and help them in pass protection. But Zach Moss wasn't doing that. And so it's a fresh start for him with the Colts. And the Bills give up a sixth-round draft pick in addition to Moss to get Nyheim Hines. In terms of what the Bills gave up, I find myself very satisfied with what it took to get Nyheim Hines. Now, what are the Bills actually getting in Hines? They're getting a 26-year-old running back that is really good at catching the football and is a really good punt returner. Let's talk about the receiving ability of Nyheim Hines. 237 catches in 5 seasons. He's got the 5th most receiving yards among running backs since he entered the league in 2018. He is a tried and true pass-catching running back, and we know the Bills have been after this type of player. Whether it was the J.D. McKissick failed signing, the James Cook draft pick, and now this trade, the Bills have been looking for this skill set. Not only does he give you that receiving ability and, he can play multiple spots and catch the football, but he also gives you a lot of speed to the perimeter as a runner. He gives you the juice, the burst, the big playability out of the backfield. In a lot of ways, he provides everything you hoped he provides everything you thought you and hoped you were getting when you drafted James Cook, but now in a veteran player. That's the reality of this. You feel like you had this type of player in James Cook, but the Bills wanted a veteran for that role. And so I don't know that this means a whole lot for James Cook long term. It means this year, I think Nyheim Hines will eat into his opportunities. But I think long term, the Bills are probably still very committed to developing James Cook to have a big role in this offense. He's also an outstanding punt returner, Nyheim Hines. He's fielded 111 punts in the NFL. He's only had 2 muffs, and both of those muffs came in 1 season. So I think this is his 5th season, and 4 out of 5 seasons as the Colts punt returner, he's not muffed any punts. So he's a good decision maker, a good handler of the football, and he's explosive. He's averaging 11.8 yards per punt return for his career. That's a very healthy number, and he has 2 punt return touchdowns. So you get the total package in the punt returner here in terms of fielding, decision-making, and the ability to create big plays. And obviously that's a role that, after the Jamison Crowder injury, has become Khalil Shakir's job, and Khalil Shakir's done a fine job. But both of the roles that I anticipate Hines playing for this team is an indicator that the Bills want to rely less on rookies, because it takes away from James Cook and what he's going to do for you this year. It takes away from Khalil Shakir and the punt return dynamic that he was going to give you this year. And to me, that's notable. We talked about this a little bit yesterday on the podcast about how there is variance when it comes to relying on rookies. Josh Allen has said repeatedly that you're a dumb rookie until you're not. And this allows the Bills to rely less on rookies. And I'm optimistic for Khalil Shakir, obviously. And nothing changes on the receiving side of what Khalil Shakir can be. But the biggest impact here is it's probably going to minimize James Cook the rest of this season. And we're obviously coming off of a performance from James Cook against the Packers that was probably his best in the NFL, whether that was the reception that he had or the carries. And he's had some more positive flashes, but the overall body of work is pretty small. And you have a guy here that is very conditioned for the exact role that you had in mind for James Cook. And so I like the know-how and the proven nature that comes with a Nyheim Hines. Now, as far as the future impact, Nyheim Hines is under contract for the next 2 seasons. They extended him pretty recently. He's got a base salary in 2023 of almost $4.5 million and $5.14 in 2024. So this is a player that isn't on a modest deal, right? He's getting paid. And so it brings some questions to my mind about what they do there. Is it a restructure opportunity? Can they move some of that money around and make it a little less impactful on what they're absorbing from a contract perspective beyond this year? What does it mean for Devin Singletary beyond this year? Surely you're not going to pay 2 running backs. You're still going to pay Hines something. And of course, Singletary is up. What does that mean beyond this year? I guess that's probably something you feel comfortable going into the offseason saying, yeah, well, we'll figure that out. So beyond this year, is it James Cook and Nyheim Hines, and then you add more of a downhill back through the draft or free agency to kind of complement those skill sets? I'll be interested in seeing what the plan is. But I think the bigger talking point where we should really focus is, what does he mean for the team this year? And the answer to that question is, you get the receiving profile that you've been coveting and telling us. I mean, you look at the actions and you know they've been wanting this type of player. You have a guy that has the 5th most receiving yards since 2018 among running backs. Oh, by the way, a very tried and true punt returner as well. And you have to rely less on rookies in a year where you're trying to go win the Super Bowl. You have everything you need. I think that's a net positive to the football team. I come away very satisfied with this trade from every angle in terms of what they gave up and what these skill sets are and what it means now and what it can mean long term. So I like this Nyheim Hines trade, and a lot of that probably stems from me really buying into him as a person and as a player. But I also love, and for as optimistic as I am about James Cook and Khalil Shakir, I love being able to rely on a veteran with the makeup of a guy like Nyheim Hines for those types of roles. So I'm a fan of this Nyheim Hines trade for the Buffalo Bills. I hope you've been getting in on the action over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is my favorite daily fantasy resource. How does it work? Well, you pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. And PrizePicks offers projections on all sports, so that's not just football. It's NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, PGA, you name it. You can find it over at PrizePicks. Super easy to use. You can make an entry in 60 seconds or less. It is that easy. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. So if you deposit 100, PrizePicks will give you 100. If you deposit 50, PrizePicks will give you 50. Don't forget to use our promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match worth up to $100. BetOnline.net is your number one source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. It's BetOnline, and it's where the game starts. So that wasn't the only thing the Bills did on Tuesday afternoon. It wasn't just trading for Nyheim Hines. The Bills made several other moves that I want to address here as we close out this bonus episode. Well, they made another trade. They sent a 2023 7th-round pick to the Atlanta Falcons for a very familiar player, safety Dean Marlowe. And a lot of people thought that this could happen, and I'm happy that it did. Dean Marlowe is extremely experienced with Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier. Obviously, a stretch that they were together with the Bills up until last season, right? They were together at all that time. And then, of course, Dean Marlowe was with Sean McDermott for a couple of years back in Carolina. And so familiar player to come in here and provide safety depth. Now, I don't know what this means in terms of Jordan Poyer. We've not been updated there in terms of what the severity of his injury is and how long he'll be out. But whether it's providing some insurance to go with this safety room that doesn't have Micah Hyde anymore, with the player that obviously knows the scheme and the Bills have deployed in so many different ways over the years and obviously gives you a quality special teams contribution. But whether it's Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, whatever player's not going to be around, you have some more insurance here. And that's a great thing. And so I don't think it'll take long for him to get onboarded here and be able to help this football team, whether that's filling in for Jordan Poyer, filling in for Micah Hyde, both. There's just, for a 7th-round pick, You do that all day long under these circumstances with Hyde and Poyer. Hyde out for the year and Poyer, banged up, right? At a minimum, he's banged up, whether it's the ribs, the elbow. It's nice to have Dean Marlowe back, right? I loved having him in the past. It's good. It really is good to have him back. I'm sure everybody kind of feels that way. Nice quality depth player that just knows the scheme. Like, you've watched Dean Marlowe step onto the football field for the Buffalo Bills and him get guys lined up and communicate. That's so important for this football team. They've used him as a legit safety, but also like as a true slot player at times. I love that versatility, and he's a good special teams player. I know he was a good locker room guy, and people, he was part of the guys, right? Fit in, him and his family. So that's awesome. Happy to see Dean Marlowe back. Was kind of surprised they let him get away. And I think for Dean, he probably wanted to go start, right? Goes to Detroit last year. Doesn't really get a chance to play that much. He's in Atlanta again, kind of a backup, a little bit of a spot starter lately. And so for Dean, I respect it. He probably wanted to get out and see if he could be a legit starter and make a name for himself without Poyer and Hyde around. And that really hasn't come to fruition. And he was in two spots where that opportunity was there in Detroit and Atlanta. Now he's back in a familiar role on a contending team. So I like that all the way around. The Bills also activated Tre'Davious White from the PUP list. Tre'Davious White is on the active roster for the Buffalo Bills. Talk about a midseason acquisition. I'm excited. I miss watching 2-7 play football. Now, I don't know if that means he plays this week against the Jets, but we're going to see him on the field very soon. When, still up in the air, but I think it's exciting to know that we are getting very, very close. And we're talking about an all-pro player, a guy that's among the best in the NFL at his position, a game-changing talent, somebody who takes away the football. Can't wait to see him back. And look, the Bills have a great problem to have on their hands right here with 4 starting caliber corners in Trey White and Dane Jackson and Kyer Elam and Christian Benford. And I'm guessing it's going to be probably a rotation on both sides. Like, I think until you're ready to have Trey White play every snap, which eventually has to happen, right? This is a star player. He's going to be a 100% of this snaps player for you at some point. But until then, I think it's within the realm of possibilities that the Bills rotate Dane Jackson and Trey White on one spot and rotate Kyer Elam and Christian Benford at the other. Leslie Frazier said this week that those reps are really important for Elam and Benford. I want them to keep getting them. Nobody's a liability, right? They've all played well. They've all earned time on the field. And so while you're still kind of figuring it out with Trey White and when he's ready to play full games, he's calloused up or however you want to put it, keep rotating everybody. They can all play. And then at some point, you got to figure out who your best guy opposite of Trey White is, and then you just enjoy the depth. Bills are in a good spot to be. We've been dreaming about this at corner for a number of years, right? We've been nervous. I've been nervous, at least. I've been communicating that on the podcast. Right now, the Bills are in such good shape at corner, and I'm really happy about it. But, man, 2-7. That dude's a dude. I'm excited. A couple other things here. Xavier Rhodes has been reinstated to the practice squad. Had a hamstring injury. Looks like he's ready to go and provide even more cornerback depth. Love that. The Bills did release some players here. So Brandon Bryant and Isaiah Hodgins are off the active roster. And that's, a situation where I'm sure the Bills would love to have both of those players back on the practice squad if they can clear waivers. But two guys that you love to be around. I hope that they don't get signed by somebody else, but obviously would love to see them back on the practice squad. And the Bills released cornerback Jordan Miller from the practice squad, and that's who Xavier Rhodes replaces. So a busy Tuesday afternoon for the Buffalo Bills, trading for Nyheim Hines and Dean Marlowe. Trey White is back on the active roster. Xavier Rhodes is healthy, back on the practice squad. Brandon Bryant and Isaiah Hodgins released. I'm sure they love both back on the practice squad, and Jordan Miller released from the practice squad. So not your typical Tuesday afternoon in the world of the Buffalo Bills, but the trade deadline brought on quite a bit of action and had to give you an emergency podcast here to cover it all. But stay with me here because we still got the Jets primer coming your way. I did have to kind of pivot. So that's going to come out on YouTube and regular podcast form probably tomorrow morning. But we'll get it to you as quickly as we can. Until then, this should tie you over. Go Bills. Thanks for joining me. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. We'll be back again real soon to talk about the Bills matchup against the New York Jets.